Snow White and Rose Red, written by the brothers Grimm. Once upon a time, a poor widow lived in a hut in a lonely place. In front of the hut was a garden in which grew two rose bushes, one with white roses and the other with red. The widow had two daughters just like the two bushes, and they were called Snow White and Rose Red. The girls were very kind and obedient, and everyone who met them thought they must be the nicest girls in the world. Rose Red loved to run through the fields and the meadows, picking flowers and chasing butterflies, but Snow White preferred to stay with her mother at home, helping her with the housework and reading to her when the work was finished. The sisters loved each other so much that they always held hands when they left the house and vowed that they would never be parted as long as they lived. They often walked in the forest picking fruit. The animals never hurt them. They trusted the girls so much that they walked up to them. The hare ate clover from their hands. The deer grazed beside them. The elk danced around them, and the birds perched on the branches above them, singing beautiful songs to the girls. If they stayed late in the forest and it became too dark to find their way home, they would sleep side by side in the moss until the next morning. Their mother knew they were safe there and never worried about them. One time, when they had spent the night in the forest, they awoke at dawn and saw a beautiful child in a bright white dress standing in front of them. She looked at them kindly but said nothing, and then she disappeared into the forest. When the girls looked around, they discovered that they had been sleeping at the very edge of a cliff. They would certainly have fallen in if they had walked just two more steps in the darkness. Their mother was sure that the child must have been the guardian angel of good children. Snow White and Rose Red kept their mother's hut so clean that it was always a pleasure to look at. In the summer, Rose Red did the housework every morning before her mother awoke. Then she would place a bunch of flowers beside her bed, in which there was one rose from each bush. In the winter, Snow White lit the fire and hung the kettle on the pot hanger. This big copper kettle glittered like gold in the firelight because she had polished it so well. In the evening, when the snow fell, their mother would say, "Snow White, bolt the door, please." Then they sat by the fireside. Their mother put her glasses on and read to the children from a big book, and the two young girls spun wool while they listened. Their pet lamb slept at their feet, and behind them, on its perch, slept a white turtle dove with its head tucked under its wings. One night, when they were all sitting peacefully together, there was a knock at the door. "Rose Red, open the door quickly," said her mother. "It might be a traveler who is looking for shelter." Rose Red pulled back the bolt, expecting to see a poor man, but, to her great surprise, a bear put his big head through the doorway. Rose Red screamed and jumped back. The lamp began bleeding. The turtle dove started fluttering about, and Snow White hid behind her mother's chair. Then the bear began to speak.
Don't be afraid. I won't do any harm. I am half frozen and I only want to warm myself a little.
"Poor bear," said the mother. "Lie down near the fire, but be careful not to burn your fur." Then she said, "Snow White, Rose Red, come here, my children. The bear will not hurt you." So they both came closer. Little by little, the lamb and the turtle dove also approached and were not afraid of him any longer. Then the bear said,
My children, would you mind brushing the snow off my fur?
so they went to get the broom and clean the bear's fur. Then he stretched out by the fire, rumbling gently with comfort and pleasure. The girls soon felt so sure of the bear that they began to tease their large guest. They pulled his fur with their hands, put their little feet on his back, rolled him from side to side, patted him with a stick, and burst out laughing when he growled. The bear let them play, but if it became too rough, he said,
Children, leave me in peace. Snow White, Rose Red, Don't kill your sweetheart.
When it was bedtime and the girls were asleep, their mother said to the bear, "You stay the night there, near the fire, and God will watch over you." The next morning, the two girls let the bear go when he asked, and he went back into the forest, shuffling through the snow. From then on, he came back every evening at the same time to lie near the fire, and he let the girls play with him. They were so used to him by now that they did not bolt the door any more until after their friend came in. When spring arrived and everything outside was green again, the bear said to Snow White one morning,
Now I have to leave you. You will not see me in the summer.
"Where are you going, dear bear?" asked Snow White.
I have to go into the forest to protect all my treasure from the bad gnomes.
He replied.
In the winter, when the land is completely frozen, the treasure is safe for they have to stay under the ground. Now the sun has warmed the ground, they can make holes and get out. Everything they lay their hands on is taken back to their caves and never seen again.
Snow White opened the door for him, but she was very sad because he had to leave. However, as the bear left, a little piece of his fur stuck in the latch. It seemed to Snow White that she saw gold glittering through the fur, but she was not absolutely sure. The bear left quickly, and soon he had disappeared behind the trees. Some time later, the mother sent her children into the woods to gather twigs. On their way, they found a huge tree lying on the ground, and around the trunk they saw something jumping about between the leaves, but they could not make out what it was. When they came closer, they saw it was a gnome. He had an old wrinkled face and a long white beard. The end of his beard was caught in a crack of the tree, and the little man was leaping from one side to the other like a chained dog, not knowing how to get out of this tangle. He stared at the two young girls with his flaming eyes and cried,
What are you standing there for? Can't you come and help me?
"Little man, what are you doing there?" asked Rose Red.
You stupid nosy goose, answered the gnome. I wanted to chop this tree to get some small logs for the kitchen. The big logs burn our little plates that we used to eat from, since we are not as greedy as you. I drove the wedge in with my axe, but the wedge was too shiny. It flew straight out and the crack closed so quickly I had not time to pull out my beautiful white beard. Now I'm stuck. Don't laugh at me, you naughty girls. You are so very unkind.
The children tried with all their might to pull the beard out of the tree, but it was impossible. It was completely stuck. "I will go and find someone else to help us," said Rose Red.
You stupid lamb.
Grumbled the gnome.
What could that do? There are already two of you here, and that is far too many. Can't you think of anything better?
"Be patient," exclaimed Rose Red. "We will find a solution." She took a pair of scissors from her pocket and cut the beard where it was caught. As soon as the gnome was free, he snatched up a bag filled with gold and that was hidden between the roots of the tree. He hugged it tightly and moaned.
Ah, what a horrible scissors that dared to cut the end of my fine beard. I hope the devil will get you, you wicked girls.
Then he swung the bag on his back and was off, without even thanking the children. Another day, later in the summer, Snow White and Rose Red decided to go fishing. When they arrived at the bank of the stream, they saw what they thought was a grasshopper jumping at the side of the water. They ran towards it and recognized the gnome. "What are you doing?" asked Rose Red. "Do you want to jump into the water?"
I am not stupid,
answered the gnome.
can't you see that the fish trying to drag me into the water? Oh, it is an enchanted fish, and I cannot break free of it.
The little man told the girls that he had sat down with a rod and line, but a breeze had blown up and entangled the line in his beard just when a big fish was biting it. He wasn't able to pull it back since the fish was much stronger. The gnome tried to grab the blades of grass and rushes, but all in vain, and now he was in danger of being pulled into the water. The two girls arrived just in time. They pulled at the line and tried to release the beard, but they had no more luck than the gnome. The beard and cord were quite entangled in each other. At last, the only thing they could think of to do was take the scissors and cut the beard, which made it much shorter. When the gnome saw this, he started to cry.
Do you have to be so stupid? Wasn't it enough to cut the end of my beard? Now you have taken the best part away from me, and I am too embarrassed to go back to my friends. I hope you will get the punishment you deserve.
Then the ungrateful gnome picked up a bag filled with pearls that was hidden in the reeds and, without saying another word, he disappeared behind a stone. A few days later, their mother sent the two girls into town to buy some thread, needles, braid, and ribbon. The path led across a field scattered with big rocks. On their way, they saw an eagle hovering overhead. Suddenly, as they watched, it swooped down behind a rock. Just as they were wondering what the big bird had spotted there, they heard a loud and piercing shriek. The girls ran towards the noise and saw that the eagle had grabbed their old friend the gnome and was trying to fly away with him. The children quickly caught hold of the gnome's jacket and held on tight. The eagle flapped, the gnome howled, and the children struggled and pulled. Eventually, the effort became too much for the eagle, who had to give up and let go of its prey. When the gnome had recovered from the shock, he screamed with all his might.
Couldn't you have handled me a little more carefully? You have pulled so hard on my little jacket that it is torn to shreds, you horrible, clumsy girls.
Then he picked up a bag filled with precious stones and slipped under the rock into his cave. The young girls were used to his ungratefulness by now. They carried on towards the town to do their shopping, thinking no more about the horrid little man. However, on their way back across the fields, they again met the gnome. He was gloating over his hoard of precious stones and had not expected anyone to pass by at the time of the evening. The sunset made the stones sparkle, and the sight was so beautiful that the girls stopped to look.
What are you staring at with your monkey faces?
Snapped the gnome when he saw them. His pale face became as red as fire, and he began to shout more insults at them in the hope they would decide to go away. All of a sudden, there was a terrible roar and a black bear came running from the woods. The terrified gnome tried to hide, but the bear was too fast for him and quickly caught him with his huge paws. Then he started squealing and howling.
Dear Mr. Bear, spare me. I will give you all my treasure. Look at the beautiful stones I have here. Don't kill me. What would you do with such a poor little man like me? You wouldn't even feel me between your teeth. Why don't you take those two wretched girls instead? They would make a delicious snack for you. They are as plump as a pair of geese. For goodness sake, eat them instead of me.
The bear did not take any notice of what the gnome said and gave him one kick which killed him instantly. Then the bear called out to the two frightened girls who were running away as fast as they could.
Snow White, Rose Red, don't be afraid. Wait for me. I will go with you.
Suddenly, the girls recognized his voice and stopped running in delight. But when the creature came closer to them, his bear skin suddenly fell off, and in front of them instead stood a young man dressed all in gold.
I am a prince, he said. I was bewitched by that evil gnome, who stole all my treasures. He made me run through the woods in the form of a wild bear and said I would not be free of the spell until his death. Now he has received the punishment he deserved.
Now, you might think that was the end of the story, but it wasn't quite. A few years later, Snow White married the prince, and Rose Red married his brother. The old mother lived with her children in peace and happiness ever after. She brought the rose bushes to the palace and planted them under the window, and every year they still bloomed with the most beautiful white and red roses in the world. The end. Thank you for listening. Until next time.